Amina had always loved her hair. It was long, soft, and full of curls that seemed to dance when she moved. She often spent hours brushing it, tying it up in different styles, or letting it flow freely over her shoulders. It was more than just hair to her, it was a part of her identity, a part of who she was. People often complimented her on it, and she felt proud whenever someone noticed the effort she put into caring for it. Her hair made her feel confident, beautiful, and strong, and she had always believed that she should never let anyone tell her to change something so personal. For the past few months, Amina had been dating Tay. He was kind, gentle, and attentive. They met through a mutual friend at a small gathering one Saturday afternoon, and there was an instant connection between them. Tay had a quiet charm that drew Amina in, and he always seemed genuinely interested in what she had to say. He listened when she talked about her dreams, her family, and even her small, silly thoughts about life. At first, everything about him felt natural, and she found herself looking forward to their meetings, texting him, and hearing his voice. Things between them had been going well. They went on walks in the park, shared meals at small cafes, and laughed at each other's jokes, even the bad ones. Amina liked how Tay seemed to care for her without trying to control her. She liked that he complimented her for who she was, not for how she looked or what she wore. She thought that maybe, for the first time, she had found someone who truly accepted her. One bright afternoon, they decided to meet at a small coffee shop in the city. The sun was shining through the windows, casting warm patterns on the wooden tables. The air smelled of roasted coffee beans, pastries, and a faint hint of vanilla. Amina had chosen a casual outfit that made her feel comfortable, and she had left her hair loose, letting her curls fall naturally around her face. She liked this version of herself, simple and free. Tay arrived a little late, smiling as he waved at her from the door. Amina smiled back, happy to see him. They hugged, and for a few moments, everything felt light and easy. They ordered their drinks and sat near the window watching people pass by on the street. The conversation flowed as usual, filled with small talk, laughter, and gentle teasing. Amina felt relaxed, enjoying the moment. But then, as if he had been holding something back, Tay's expression changed. He looked nervous, fidgeting with his hands and glancing around as though unsure where to start. Amina noticed immediately and tilted her head, concerned. "Tay, is everything okay?" she asked softly. He took a deep breath, looking down at the table before meeting her eyes. "Amina," he began slowly, I think maybe you should cut your hair." Amina blinked. The words felt like a sudden gust of cold wind. She froze, her mind struggling to process what he had just said. "Cut my hair?" she repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," Tay said, his voice hesitant. "My mother, she would really like it if you cut it. She thinks it would look better on you, maybe more neat. I just thought." He trailed off, clearly uncomfortable. Amina felt a mix of shock, hurt, and confusion. Her hair was more than just a style, it was a part of her soul, something she had nurtured and cherished for years. To hear that she should cut it just to please someone else, someone she barely knew, made her chest tighten and her stomach twist into knots. She looked at Tay, searching his face for signs that he was joking, that he didn't really mean it. But his expression was serious, almost apologetic, and it made her heart sink even further. How could he suggest something like this? How could he even think that she would change something so personal just for his mother? Amina felt a wave of emotions, anger, sadness, disbelief, but most of all, confusion. She had thought Tay respected her, that he appreciated her for who she was. Yet here he was, asking her to make a change that went against everything she valued about herself. She wanted to speak, to shout, to tell him how wrong this felt, but the words caught in her throat. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "Tay, why would you say that?" she asked finally, her voice trembling slightly. "Why would you ask me to do something like that? My hair, it's part of me." Tay looked down, rubbing the back of his neck nervously. "I know. I just thought, my mother, she can be very particular about things. I didn't mean to upset you. His voice faded and he stopped, clearly unsure how to continue. Amina stared at him, feeling a knot tighten in her chest. She had always known that Tay's family was important to him, but she had never imagined that it would come at the cost of her own identity. Her mind raced with questions. Did he really care about what she wanted, or was he just trying to avoid conflict with his mother? Did he think love was about changing oneself to fit someone else's expectations? For a moment, the world around them seemed to blur. The warm sunlight, the smell of coffee, the chatter of other customers, all of it faded as Amina tried to make sense of what had just happened. She felt small, almost invisible, as if the part of herself that she cherished the most was being dismissed. But even as the hurt settled in, A small voice inside her reminded her of who she was. She was strong. She was proud. She had never allowed anyone to tell her what to do with her own body, her own choices, her own life. And she was not about to start now. Amina looked at Tay again, her eyes steady, though her heart was still heavy. She wanted to explain, to make him understand that her hair was not just about looks. It was about identity, self-respect, and personal choice. It was about being true to herself, even if it meant facing difficult conversations or disappointing someone she cared about. Tay fidgeted, glancing at her as if sensing the shift in her mood. Amina. I didn't mean to. She held up a hand, stopping him. I know you didn't, she said softly. But I need you to understand that this isn't something I can do. My hair, my choice, it's not negotiable. For a moment there was silence between them. Tay looked down, a mix of guilt and confusion on his face. He opened his mouth to say something, then closed it again, unsure what to say next. Amina took a deep breath, feeling a strange mixture of sadness and relief. She had spoken her truth. She had stood up for herself even when it was uncomfortable. And though the future of their relationship felt uncertain, she knew one thing: she could never betray herself just to make someone else happy. She glanced out the window at the busy street outside, where people hurried by, lost in their own lives. The sunlight caught the curls around her face, making them shine like small golden rings. In that moment, Amina felt a renewed sense of strength. She would not let anyone, not even someone she loved, diminish her sense of self. The conversation with Tay had been difficult, yes, but it had also reminded her of something important. Self-respect mattered more than approval. And as she sat there, sipping her coffee, letting her curls tumble freely over her shoulders, she knew that she would never let anyone take that away from her. Amina could not stop thinking about what Tay had said. The words echoed in her mind like a constant, uncomfortable hum. She remembered the first time she had met Mama Funk, Tay's mother. It had been at Tay's family home during a weekend visit. Mama Funk had greeted her politely, but there had been something in her tone that felt sharp, like she was testing Amina. She had asked about Amina's clothes, her hobbies, and even her family in ways that seemed harmless at first. But Amina had quickly noticed the little judgments hidden behind the questions. When Amina had worn a bright dress that day, Mama Funk had smiled, but there was a subtle tilt of the head, a small wrinkle between her eyebrows, as if the dress was too bold, too colorful. Amina had felt the sting, but she had brushed it off. Maybe she just likes classic styles, she thought. She tried not to let it bother her, but small things kept adding up. Then came the comments about her manners. Mama Funk had once said softly, "You speak well, but sometimes you laugh too loudly. People might not take you seriously." Amina had smiled politely, but inside she had felt confused. Was it wrong to be herself? To laugh freely, to dress in bright colors, to enjoy her life as she wanted? Tay had laughed along, saying it was nothing serious, but Amina had noticed the look his mother gave him, a small shake of disapproval. Now, after Tay's words in the coffee shop, all of those small memories came rushing back. He had suggested she cut her hair. Not for her, not for love, not for herself, but to please his mother. The thought made her chest tighten. Amina had never believed that love should require changing who you are, yet here she was, being asked to do exactly that. That evening, Amina went home, her heart heavy. She sat by her window, the city lights twinkling outside like distant stars. Her room was quiet, but inside her mind there was a storm. She thought about Tay, how kind he had seemed, how gentle he could be. She wanted to believe that he loved her for who she was. But now doubt had crept in, planting a small seed of worry. Was he really thinking about her feelings or just trying to keep his mother happy? She thought about all the times she had adjusted herself around others. Never too much, just enough to be polite and respectful. But cutting her hair? That was not small. That was not polite. That was giving away a part of herself, and she felt a flicker of anger at the very idea. How could someone she cared about ask her to do something so personal, so intimate, just to avoid a family conflict? Her friends had always told her that love should never hurt like this. Love should be supportive, nurturing, and accepting. She remembered the conversations she had shared with her best friend, Kemi. They had often talked about relationships, about being true to yourself, about boundaries. Kemi had once said, "Amina, if someone asks you to change who you are for them or for someone else, maybe it's not real love. Maybe it's just comfort for them." Amina thought about Kemi's words and felt their weight. Could she really accept Tay's request? Could she cut her hair, a part of her soul, to keep the peace? Her answer came quickly in her heart: no, she could not. She had always prided herself on being herself, and she would not betray that for anyone. Not Tay, not his mother, not even for the promise of an easy, happy relationship. But alongside her determination was pain. She loved Tay, and the thought of disappointing him hurt more than she wanted to admit. She remembered the times they had laughed together, the small gestures of affection, the quiet moments when he had held her hand or brushed a curl from her face. Those memories made her heart ache. She wanted to hold on to those moments to keep the relationship, but she also knew that love built on compromise of identity was fragile. The next day, Amina tried to act normal, but inside she was restless. She remembered another visit to Tay's house when Mama Funk had commented on the way she cooked. Perhaps a lighter spice, Amina. It's easier for people to enjoy. Amina had nodded politely, hiding her irritation, but the memory now brought a sour taste to her mouth. Each small comment had been like a tiny chip in the wall of her confidence. Each suggestion had been a subtle push to mold her into someone she was not. She walked to the market, trying to clear her mind. The streets were busy, filled with people hurrying from one place to another. Vendors shouted about prices, children ran past laughing, and the smell of fresh bread and roasted corn filled the air. Amina bought a few vegetables and some fruit, but her thoughts remained heavy. She replayed the conversation with Tay again and again, dissecting every word, every glance, every hesitation in his voice. Her mother, Aisha, noticed her mood when she returned home. "What's wrong, Amina? You look troubled," she asked, concern lining her face. Amina hesitated but then decided to share, knowing her mother would understand. "It's Tay," she said. He suggested I cut my hair to make his mother happy." Aisha's eyes widened. She sat down beside her daughter, taking her hands gently. "Amina, you are beautiful just the way you are. Your hair, your choices, your smile, these are parts of you. No one should ask you to change them for anyone. Not for love, not for peace, not for anyone." Her mother's words gave Amina a small comfort, a reminder that she was not alone in her feelings. She thought about what she wanted, what she valued, and slowly her mind started to feel clearer. She realized that the conflict was not just about hair. It was about respect, boundaries, and love that honors who you are. She remembered how her friends had always said she deserved someone who appreciates her fully. Someone who loves her for her quirks, her personality, her dreams, and yes, even her long curly hair. The thought gave her a flicker of hope amidst the confusion and pain. That night, as she lay in bed, she thought about Tay again. She loved him, yes, but love was not supposed to make her feel small, invisible, or wrong for being herself. She thought about what her life would be like if she cut her hair, how it would feel unnatural, how it would remind her every day that she had given in. That was not love. That was compromise of self. Amina understood something important in that moment. Conflicts like these were tests, not of love but of character, courage, and self-respect. She could choose to bend, to please someone else and lose herself in the process, or she could stand firm, even if it risked upsetting Tay or his mother. The decision was hers alone. She felt a sense of resolve forming. She would not cut her hair to satisfy Mama Funk. She would not let anyone make her feel less than she was. Her hair was a symbol of her identity, a marker of her confidence, and she would not trade it for comfort, approval, or temporary peace. Amina knew that this conflict was only the beginning. There would be more conversations, more challenges, and perhaps more pressure from Tay's family. But she also knew that she was capable of facing them. She could speak her mind, set boundaries, and still care for Tay. True love, she realized, was not about submission. It was about respect, trust, and mutual understanding. As she drifted to sleep that night, Amina felt a strange mixture of sadness and strength. The sadness came from the realization that love sometimes asks difficult questions and challenges your comfort. The strength came from knowing that she could answer those questions with courage, that she could honor herself while navigating the challenges ahead. And though the path forward seemed uncertain, Amina felt ready. She would face the conflict not by changing who she was, but by standing firm in her truth. She would show Tay and perhaps even Mama Funk one day that love and respect could coexist, but only when it honored the person at the heart of it, her. Amina sat quietly in her room that evening, the soft glow of her bedside lamp casting gentle shadows across the walls. The day's events replayed in her mind, each memory making her heart feel heavier. She could still hear Tay's words echoing in her head, "Maybe you should cut your hair, my mother would like that." The more she thought about it, the more it hurt. She loved Tay, yes, but the idea that he could even suggest such a thing felt like a betrayal, a reminder that sometimes love could be complicated and confusing. Her phone buzzed and it was a message from her friend Bola. She hesitated for a moment, then typed a quick response, "Hey, I need to talk. Can you come over?" Within minutes, Bola was at her door, smiling warmly but sensing immediately that something was wrong. Amina invited her in, motioning for her to sit on the small couch in the corner of the room. "I don't even know where to start," Amina began, her voice trembling slightly. He said something today that really hurt me." She explained the situation carefully, recounting the conversation at the coffee shop. Bola listened intently, nodding, her eyes soft with understanding. That's a lot, Amina," Bola said finally, taking her hand. "I can see why you're upset. No one should ask you to change something so personal, something that makes you who you are. Especially not for someone else's approval." Amina sighed, leaning back on the couch. "I know, but I love him. And I don't want to make things difficult. I don't want to upset him or his family. I don't know how to handle this." Bola squeezed her hand. "Love isn't supposed to make you feel like you're losing yourself. You have every right to say no. Your hair, your style, your choices, they belong to you. And anyone who truly cares about you will respect that." Amina nodded, feeling the words sink in. Her friends had always been her anchor, guiding her through moments of confusion and doubt. They reminded her that it was okay to prioritize herself, to set boundaries, and to stand firm even when it was uncomfortable. She thought about all the times she had changed herself for others. Small things, mostly like wearing certain clothes or speaking a little softer, but cutting her hair? That was not small. That was a part of her identity. After Bola left, Amina walked to her mirror and stood there, studying her reflection. The soft curls framed her face perfectly, bouncing gently with her every move. She reached up and ran her fingers through her hair, feeling the familiar texture, the weight of it, the sense of comfort it gave her. Her reflection stared back at her, calm and strong, yet worried and uncertain. She remembered the compliments she had received over the years, the way people admired her curls, the way her friends often told her that her hair was beautiful and unique. And now, someone wanted to take that away, not because it was wrong, but because it didn't fit someone else's idea of perfect. Amina felt a surge of defiance. She would not let anyone define her beauty, her worth, or her choices. As she sat on her bed, wrapped in a soft blanket, her mind wandered to Tay. She loved him, yes, but love alone could not justify losing herself. She thought about the gentle way he held her hand, the laughter they had shared, the quiet moments when he listened to her dreams. Those memories were precious, but she knew that love that asks for self-erasure was not healthy. She could love someone and still maintain her boundaries. She could love someone and still choose herself. Amina thought about the future and how this conflict might unfold. Would Tay pressure her again? Would his mother continue to criticize her choices? She felt a knot in her stomach, imagining the uncomfortable family gatherings, the awkward conversations, the constant pressure to conform. She realized that standing her ground would not be easy, but it was necessary. She picked up her journal, the small leather-bound notebook where she often wrote her thoughts and dreams. She began to write, letting the words flow freely. "I will not cut my hair to please anyone," she wrote. "I am Amina. I am strong. I am proud of who I am and I will not change for someone else. If love is real, it will respect me, my choices, and my identity." Writing the words made her feel stronger, more determined. It was as if each sentence reinforced a protective wall around her heart, shielding her from the pressure she felt. Later that night, she called another close friend, Chidi, who had always been practical and wise in his advice. She explained everything to him again, this time more openly, letting the frustration and confusion pour out. Chidi listened patiently and then said, "Amina, you have to think about what's right for you. Compromise is one thing, but losing yourself is another. No one should ever make you feel that you are not enough as you are." Amina felt a wave of relief. Hearing the words from someone she trusted helped her see things more clearly. She realized that the struggle she felt inside was not weakness, it was clarity. It was the inner voice telling her that she had the right to decide for herself. She got up and walked to the window, looking out at the quiet street below. The night was calm, the stars bright, and the cool breeze reminded her of the freedom she still had, the freedom to make her own choices. Amina smiled softly, feeling a sense of empowerment she had not felt in days. She understood that the conflict with Tay and his mother was not just about hair. It was about respect, boundaries, and staying true to oneself. Amina reflected on her past experiences. She remembered the times she had stood up for herself, even in small ways, telling someone politely but firmly that their opinion did not matter, choosing her own path in school, or deciding to wear what made her happy rather than what was expected. Each of those moments had built her resilience, her confidence, and her sense of self. Now, this was another moment, a bigger one, but the principle was the same. She could not compromise her identity for someone else's comfort. As she settled back into bed, Amina felt a quiet determination growing within her. She knew that the coming days would test her. There might be more pressure, more subtle suggestions, and perhaps even disappointment from Tay. But she also knew that she was capable of facing it. She could speak her truth, set her boundaries, and maintain her dignity. She closed her eyes and imagined herself walking into the next encounter with Tay, holding her head high, her hair flowing naturally around her face. She saw herself speaking confidently, expressing her feelings without fear or hesitation. She pictured Tay listening, understanding, and maybe even learning something about love, respect, and boundaries. Amina smiled in the darkness, feeling a sense of peace for the first time that day. She knew that love was complicated, that relationships required effort, and that disagreements were inevitable. But she also knew that love should never demand the loss of oneself. Her hair, her choices, her identity, they were hers and hers alone. She would not give them up, not for Tay, not for his mother, and not for anyone. Finally, she drifted off to sleep, her mind filled with clarity and determination. She had faced her inner struggle, acknowledged her feelings, and decided where she stood. The journey ahead might be challenging, but Amina knew that she could face it with courage, strength, and self-respect. She would remain true to herself no matter what. The morning sun filtered softly through Amina's curtains, casting a warm glow across her room. She woke feeling a mix of anxiety and determination. Today was the day she would talk to Tay. The conversation in the coffee shop had left a mark, and the discussions with her friends and family had helped her gather courage. She knew she needed to speak clearly and firmly, to show Tay that love could never come at the expense of her identity. Amina spent some time preparing herself. She looked in the mirror and studied her reflection. Her curls framed her face in soft waves, shining in the morning light. She ran her fingers through her hair, letting it tumble freely, and felt a quiet confidence growing inside her. She repeated to herself softly, "I am enough. I'm strong. I am who I am, and I will not change for anyone." She dressed simply in clothes that made her feel comfortable and confident, and took a deep breath before leaving her house. The streets were busy, filled with people going about their day. The familiar sounds of vendors, cars, and children playing surrounded her, but her focus remained on the upcoming conversation. Each step she took felt heavier with anticipation, yet she knew she could not avoid it. When she arrived at the small cafe where they had agreed to meet, Tay was already there. He looked up as she approached, a mixture of surprise and concern on his face. He stood and offered her a smile, but it seemed uncertain, like he sensed that today would not be a light, easy conversation. Amina smiled politely, but there was no hesitation in her movements. She walked to the table and sat down, letting her curls fall naturally around her shoulders. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air was thick with tension, but Amina felt ready. She had spent hours thinking about what she would say, rehearsing it silently, and now it was time to speak. "Tay," she began, her voice calm but firm, "I want to talk about what happened yesterday." He nodded slightly, his expression attentive. "I've thought about your words and the suggestion about cutting my hair. I need to tell you how I feel." Tay shifted in his seat, looking nervous. Amina took a deep breath, letting her hands rest on the table, and continued. "My hair is part of who I am. It is not just about appearance. It is about my identity, my choices, and my self-respect. When you suggested I cut it to please your mother, it hurt me. It made me feel like I was being asked to change myself for someone else's approval." Tay opened his mouth to speak, but Amina raised her hand gently, letting him know she wanted to finish. "I understand that your mother's opinion matters to you. I know you want peace and harmony, but love should never require me to give up a part of myself. True love respects who the other person is, even when it's not what others expect or want." She paused, letting her words sink in. She looked directly at him, her eyes steady. "Tay, I care about you. I want this relationship to work. But I cannot cut my hair just to please your mother. I need someone who loves me as I am, who accepts me for who I am, not someone who wants me to change to fit their idea of perfect." Tay blinked, clearly surprised. He had expected hesitation, perhaps even anger, but what he saw was calm strength. Amina was not pleading, not begging, she was stating her truth. And in that moment he began to understand. He realized that his request, though small in his mind, carried a weight she could not bear. He took a deep breath and leaned back slightly. "Amina, I didn't mean to hurt you," he said softly. "I just thought, maybe it would make things easier with my mother." Amina nodded, listening patiently. "I understand that you were thinking about your mother. But it's not my responsibility to change myself to make someone else happy. If your mother cannot accept me as I am, that is her choice. I cannot compromise my identity for her approval, or for anyone's approval really. Tay ran a hand through his hair, clearly processing her words. I didn't think about it like that. I thought I was helping, making things smoother between us. I didn't mean to make you feel small or hurt your feelings. Amina smiled softly, feeling a little relief, but she remained firm. I know you didn't mean to, Tay. But the truth is, love is not about convenience or approval. Love is about respect, trust, and acceptance. I cannot be someone I am not, just to fit someone else's idea of what is right. There was a pause as Tay looked at her, his expression thoughtful. He had grown up in a family where his mother's approval often guided decisions, where her opinions carried weight in every aspect of life. He had never considered that asking someone to change themselves to satisfy her could be harmful. Seeing Amina so strong, so clear in her boundaries, made him reflect on his own assumptions. I understand now, he said quietly. I didn't see it from your perspective. I was thinking about what my mother would think, and I didn't realize how that would make you feel. Amina nodded. It's okay, Tay. I know you didn't intend to hurt me. But we need to understand that our choices and our identities are not negotiable. If we love each other, we must respect each other as we are, even if others do not approve. Tay leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair again. You're right. I see that now. I was wrong to ask you to change something so personal. I want to love you for who you are, not for anyone else's approval. Amina felt a wave of relief mixed with pride. She had spoken her truth and he had listened. It was not easy to confront someone she cared about, but standing her ground had been necessary. She realized that true love was about honesty, about expressing feelings openly, and about mutual respect. For the first time since the conversation at the coffee shop, Amina felt a sense of clarity. She knew that their relationship would face challenges. Tay's mother might still disapprove, and there could be more difficult moments. But she also knew that she had set a firm boundary. She had shown that her identity and self-respect could not be compromised. Tay reached across the table and took her hand gently. I promise, he said, I will respect you, Amina. I will not ask you to change for anyone. I want us to be honest with each other, always. Amina squeezed his hand, feeling the sincerity in his words. She knew that actions would matter more than promises, but hearing him acknowledge her feelings and understand her perspective was a step in the right direction. She felt a small sense of hope for their future together, built on respect rather than compromise. They spent the next hour talking quietly, discussing their feelings, their expectations, and how they could navigate the challenges ahead. Amina felt empowered, knowing that she could express her thoughts openly without fear. She realized that standing her ground did not mean rejecting love. It meant embracing it in a healthy, respectful way. Amina walked away from the cafe with a feeling she had not felt in a long time: strength. Every step she took felt purposeful, deliberate, as if the weight of doubt and fear had been lifted from her shoulders. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of fresh flowers from nearby gardens, and the sunlight caught her curls, making them shimmer like strands of silk. Her hair, long and free, seemed to mirror her mood, a symbol of her freedom, her identity, and the choice she had made to honor herself first. For a moment she paused at the corner of the street, watching people pass by. Some hurried, busy with their own lives, while others walked leisurely, chatting or laughing. She smiled softly, realizing that, like these people, each person was walking their own path, facing their own challenges. She had walked her own difficult path today, and for the first time in a while, she felt proud of the way she had handled it. She had faced a conflict that tested not just her emotions but her sense of self, and she had emerged stronger, more certain of who she was. Her thoughts drifted back to Tay. He had listened, really listened, and for that she felt a small sense of hope. She knew that he had grown from the experience, that he had begun to understand the importance of respect, individuality, and love that does not demand change. He had promised to honor her choices, to love her as she was, and though actions mattered more than words, she could see the sincerity in his eyes. Amina remembered all the late nights she had spent worrying, replaying conversations in her head, wondering if she had been too firm or too emotional. She realized now that those worries had been necessary, that they had helped her gather clarity and courage. Standing up for oneself was never easy, especially when it involved someone she cared about deeply, but she understood that the right kind of love did not require compromising who she was. As she walked toward her home, the gentle rhythm of her steps matched the steady beat of her heart. Each step felt like a declaration: I am strong. I am proud. I am enough. The tension she had carried for days began to melt away, replaced by a sense of calm and empowerment. She felt lighter, freer, as if a weight she had not even realized she was carrying had been lifted. Tay, on the other hand, was left with his own thoughts. As he watched Amina leave, her curls catching the sunlight, he reflected deeply on the influence his mother had held over his decisions and perceptions. He realized that he had often prioritized her opinions over his own judgment, assuming that pleasing her meant he was being responsible or considerate. But now, seeing Amina stand her ground with such quiet strength, he began to understand that love was not about pleasing others or seeking approval. It was about respect, understanding, and accepting the person you care about fully. Tay thought about the future, about how he could change the way he approached relationships. He knew it would not be easy to challenge habits ingrained from childhood, to untangle himself from the constant influence of his mother's expectations. But Amina had shown him that it was possible, that it was necessary if he wanted to build genuine, meaningful connections. He made a silent promise to himself. He would learn to separate others' opinions from his own decisions, and he would honor the individuality of the people he loved. Meanwhile, Amina arrived home and sank into her favorite chair by the window. She wrapped herself in a soft blanket, feeling the warmth spread through her body. She looked out at the city lights as dusk settled in, thinking about the events of the day. She realized that this was more than just a conflict over hair. It was a lesson about boundaries, self-respect, and the courage to stand firm even when it is uncomfortable. She felt proud of herself, not for winning an argument, but for remaining true to her identity, for valuing herself over the opinions of others. Her mind wandered to the people who had supported her through this. Her friends, her mother, and even moments of quiet reflection that had guided her decisions. She thought about the late-night conversations with Bola and Chidi, who had reminded her of her worth and the importance of being herself. She realized that having a support system, people who genuinely care about her well-being, had made all the difference. Their encouragement had helped her find her voice, and now she felt ready to face the world with renewed confidence. Amina also reflected on the idea of love itself. She had believed that love was simple, that it meant care and affection. But now she understood that love was complex. It required honesty, respect, and the willingness to see another person as a complete individual, not a version shaped by others' expectations. True love, she realized, encouraged growth and honored personal boundaries rather than demanding conformity. She thought about the days ahead and the possibility of more challenges with Tay's family. Mama Funk might not be pleased and there could be awkward moments or tension. But Amina knew that she had done what was right for her. She had acted with integrity, and that gave her strength. She would meet any future challenges with the same clarity and resolve, confident in the knowledge that she had not compromised herself. The next morning, Amina woke early, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. She took her time getting ready, enjoying the simple routine of brushing her hair, choosing her clothes, and preparing herself for the day. Each action, no matter how small, reminded her of the power she held over her own life. Her hair, flowing freely over her shoulders, became more than just a part of her appearance. It was a symbol of her choice, a statement of independence, and a reminder that she was worthy of respect. As she moved through her day, Amina noticed small changes in how she carried herself. She walked with a steadier gait, held her head higher, and met the eyes of people she interacted with more confidently. She felt a sense of pride that radiated outward, and even in moments of uncertainty, she reminded herself of her strength and self-worth. Every decision she made was now guided by her own values, not by the need to satisfy someone else. Tay, meanwhile, reflected more deeply on the lessons he had learned from Amina's courage. He realized that he had taken her patience, kindness, and understanding for granted in the past. Seeing her stand firm without anger, without resentment, had shown him what respect and love truly meant. He began to reconsider his approach not just to his relationship with Amina, but to his own personal decisions, his values, and how he interacted with others in his